2 months ago, I told the internet that this $60,000 tiny home was going to make $100,000 in revenue its first year as a short-term rental, or Airbnb as you might know it. And people said I was crazy, rightfully so. But what if I told you I knew exactly what we were going to make for that first year? Not only because I followed the data, but I know how to build an experience that people are going to crave and pay top dollar for year-round. Let's get into the details of what you exactly want to know, how much it costs, what the expenses are, and what exactly kind of profit can you expect from building these type of tiny home Airbnb stays. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, my name is Garrett Brown. I'm the Bigger Pockets short-term rental expert and a short-term rental investor myself. I own and manage over 20 plus units now that gross revenue $1 million every single year. I also work a full-time job at the same time. If you've ever seen any of my content before, you know I have an insane affection for tiny homes, glamping, and land hacking. That's where I built a lot of my wealth at, actually. This property that I am sitting on right now, about to show you, started off as one house on 11 acres, and now we have 5 properties on 11 acres that have tripled the value of the land and the revenue we're able to make every single year. Now, while this isn't going to be a land hacking video exactly, I'm going to show you how I set up this place and why it's become so profitable and what it costs each step of the way to actually do it. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes when I've been building other tiny home sites, so this one I feel like is actually my best one that I have developed because I just knew so much going into it and I knew where to spend money and where to save some money. So I already have several tiny homes in this particular area, so I was pretty confident in my numbers. But how would I figure that out if I didn't have any properties that were gonna give me the exact data I need? You'll log on to a lot of short-term rental data websites and you might pop in an area and it's giving you a projection of 15,000, or maybe it overinflates it and gives you a projection of 90,000. They're very tough to really be accurate. You need to go into Airbnb, go into other, Google vacation rentals and places like that, and really try to work on pricing them, looking at the calendar, seeing how much other properties are charging to really get a feel. But the data websites, they're at least enough to give you a ballpark estimate. I'll give you this example though of why they're not always fully trustworthy and what you should do to actually figure out how much you'll be able to profit. One of my first properties, which is back there, it's a geodome. It told me on AirDNA that it was going to make $20,000 to $25,000 in its first year. We made $85,000 in our first year. Second year, we made $95,000. This year, we are on track for $100,000, which is our most profitable in this one particular site. And I tell you that story to say you can't always trust the data that they're given, especially if you're the first one to be in a particular area with something a little bit unique and more of an experience. You're going to make the market in that area. If there's nothing else like it, it's hard to get a comparison for. The better idea to actually run with when you're looking into if a market will work for you, or if this type of property could work in a certain area, is use my 60-30-10 rule to get a good blanket average. 60 minutes from a major metro city, 500,000 plus people, 1 million plus is even better, and bonus points if you happen to be within, a couple hours of a couple other major cities. You need to be 30 minutes from some type of regional, state, or national attraction. This is going to means a constant flow of people coming out to your area. Besides your marketing efforts, you're at least going to have some tourism coming into that particular area that you can be able to reach out and get bookings from and be on the online travel agencies and have the visibility you need. And then the 10 is 10 minutes from some type of civilization. Gas station, Dollar General, anything like that. The further you are away from civilization, it actually becomes tougher. Because then you have to think about operations, getting handy people out there, cleaners, packages delivered, getting your guests back there safely. Quite a few things factor into it. So I don't want you to be in BFE, middle of nowhere, and you're 2 hours away from a gas station, because it causes a lot more problems than you probably realize. If your market fits in those 3 pieces of criteria, then, like I mentioned earlier, go on Airbnb and use what's called the enemy method. My friend Avery Carl developed this, and I think it's a great name and a great system. Look it up and see what specifics are exactly out there from Avery. She has a few books out that are awesome, but essentially this is you going on Airbnb and doing your research by clicking on some of the properties that are nearby, seeing what they're charging on weekends, seeing how full their calendar is, looking at some of their past reviews to see how many reviews a month they're getting. If they're getting 1 review every month, 1 every few months, they're probably not getting a lot of bookings, at least on Airbnb. I will say the one caveat that I think people underestimate on the review experimenting or the review researching is that somebody like me, I do 80 to 90% direct bookings. I don't have a ton of Airbnb reviews. People would probably look at my reviews and think, this guy never is booked. We do a ton of direct bookings, which get Google reviews and other places that get reviews, TripAdvisor and things like that. Those type of places also matter as well too. Do your research in your area, get on Google, get on Airbnb, and see what they're pricing at, see how booked up their calendar is, and just keep a track on it to kind of get a better estimate of what exactly you can expect going forward. I want you to put it into 3 buckets too. What if you end up being 25% booked of the time of what you're guessing? What if you end up being 50% booked of the time? And what if you end up having 75% occupancy, which is obviously where we want to be. But if you can't handle the 50 and 25%, that might not be the best scenario for you. And you really need to estimate it in the proper way. So that way you don't go into it blind and think that you're going to make just as much as I did, because it took a while to build up with the systems I have, which I'm about to get into and tell you exactly how we made this in our first month with this property. So let's talk about the cost breakdown real quick. One thing I love about these type of prefab homes is they're built off-site. You don't have to worry about construction going on. They literally are built in a factory, shipped to you either on a crane, or this one was on a trailer, and just dropped right into place. If I have other spots around, I don't want to be shutting off any of my bookings because I have construction in the area. This is a really simple way to make that happen without much pushback from any other guest, or just the time it takes to deal with monitoring construction and all these things. I was able to get this tiny house from Nordic and Spruce for $60,000. It's about 200 square feet. There's different models and you can customize them. It's a very, very cool company from Tennessee. It came with a water heater. It came with a shower inside, a toilet hookup, a kitchenette. I'll flash up some B-roll here of it too. I had a custom bed built inside, some furniture put in, pots and pans, a few other small changes that we did in there, actually decor. That probably was another $5,000 that we added there. The one thing I have learned with these type of experiences, you don't need a lot of land to feel distant. Fencing actually is the most important thing to enclose a lot of the area that people feel so private. I wish I would have done this more with some of my other properties that I have. I kind of spread them out a little more than I think in hindsight I even needed to. If people can look left and look right and not see anybody, they feel pretty good in the middle of nowhere. So we fenced this whole property. We did all the gravel and 3 different construction pads and the decking for it. That cost about $15,000 to add on all these extra things that you're seeing. We have a covered kitchenette area outside. We had some furniture, a TV, a small fridge put in, these chairs, fire pit, a couple grills. That was probably another $5,000. So we're at what now? $85,000, right? All right, I might have spent a little more than 100K, but it's very close. It's very close. So then we had our hot tub put in. This was $6,000. We had a sauna put in. That was $6,000. So now we're at about 97K. I was a little over 100K. A lot. It probably was closer to 110 if I'm looking at it now. I've built so many properties, sometimes they get a little jumbled in my head. This one ran out to be about 110 because then we ended up hooking up plumbing, sewer, and electric. These were a lot cheaper for me because I already have water wells on site for my other properties. I already had electric on site because of my other properties. The main thing I had to buy was a brand new septic tank, but the permit I have has it already built out so I can add 2 more tiny homes to it. So it's gonna be a lot cheaper when I build my next tiny homes in this next phase. Between the septic, which costs about $10,000 to get installed with a permit, the water, which we had to hook up to the water well, cost about $2,000 to trench, get over here. Then we had the electric, which cost about another $4,000 to trench from the transformer, hook up, and set up these things around there. So we're at 16 plus 97, so 113. All right, I lied. We ended up at about 113 here when we all said and done, give or take $1,000 or so here and there. But as you can see, the first month, we made around $10,000. You're probably curious how we were able to get the revenue that we got and what we even walked away after the expenses though. So the first month, we were very strategic with how we were going to market this property, where we were going to market it to, and what we had built up in the past that made it successful as from an instant launch. First step is we have been collecting emails for the past 3 years that we've been open for every prospective guest and every guest that has actually came on the property. We do this in a couple different ways. We collect emails off of our direct booking website. We have a pop-up that will pop up from MailChimp, which is our email marketing newsletter company, which they're not cheap, which is one thing I've been looking for a different suggestion. So if you have any, let me know in the comments. But this pop-up comes on our website and says, hey, do you want 10% off your first stay with us? put your email below, and then you'll have access to this code so that we know people use that, and then it goes directly into MailChimp. A lot of people will say, don't do the 10% and advertise. Do you want to win a free stay? People will do that. My thought is more people are probably signing up for the 10% to at least get their email, because I know I would rather sign up for a 10% off coupon than a chance to win a free stay. It sounds kind of like a sales gimmick to me, but other people could disagree. And then we also collect the emails from guests that come in. Some of my properties, we use devices like StayFi, especially my bigger ones. I've had a little pushback from that before, but in general though, just getting the email from some of these inquiries, and you can do this within your social media too with something like ManyChat, where you can ask for the email. If they're DMing you or asking you a question about anything, you can collect emails there as well too. That will sync with MailChimp, ManyChat, and MailChimp, a lot of M's in the marketing world. That's a great way to collect emails. We also have built up our organic social media following a ton. We have our own in-house company called Rome Hospitality Group that I operate that has built out our marketing funnel to be almost 90% booked through direct. And most of those people come from social media. We have 100,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok. And even just recently, our Facebook account has been exploding. I think we have 30 or 40,000 followers there, which you do not need to sleep on Facebook, because there's still a ton of people engaging with content on there. We paid 2 different videographer and photographers to come out, capture the property, get a lot of high quality photos, drone footage, and vertical video format. Paid them between, $1,000 to $2,000 to come out here. We got all of that content. It looks amazing. Once we got that video footage set up, we were able to do a pre-launch on our Instagram and make a couple viral reels already using a ManyChat function. We hooked up ManyChat to our Instagram, which is a software basically you can pay for that does automation for you on these social media platforms. We had comment zenned in, which is the name of the place, which we had under the post as the CTA, or the call to action for people. This drove a ton of engagement. We also offered a 10% discount code if you commented zenned in, and we would send it right to your DMs, which is all automated, so we don't have to do that. But these drove these posts to do very well, 20, 30,000 views, quite a bit of shares. But the real secret sauce is we did a giveaway for this exact property, which got over 3,000 shares from one post. We spent about $100 to clean the property for the giveaway winner. It's very hard to hit that kind of reach with $100, even on paid ads. We had people tag other people to enter the contest, and it really helped the visibility of the campaign. We also had one mid-level size content creator come out, about 50,000 followers. We did an exchange day with them. Their post got about 100,000 views. We had another creator that we paid a little bit of money towards, about $500 to come out. Their post got about 200,000 views. And then on top of our newsletter campaigns and our own social media campaigns, this helped drive to about 85% direct bookings. The other way we were able to get our revenue much higher is we upsold packages, birthday packages, romantic packages. All of these cost about $200, but we profit about $100 within them. We have our cleaners set them out so they make a little extra money, but usually guests that are coming to book this type of experience are usually pretty happy to pay a little extra to even increase this experience. Usually these tiny home couples cabins, they get a lot of anniversaries, romantic getaways, all of that. And the lifetime value of the customer, if you can do any add-ons, that's just gonna make your profitability level go way up. If you know anything about commercial real estate, all that matters is the amount of income that you make. So revenue matters a lot, expenses matter a lot too. But if you can just keep doing small things to get the lifetime value of a customer that comes out here up, you're gonna win in the end, and your appraisal rate's gonna be much higher and you're gonna be much happier. So now you see how much we made. We made close to $10,000, but last thing we'll talk about are what were the expenses involved with that revenue. So we had quite a few different softwares that we used to help sync this property up. I use Logify as my property management software. We use Turno to schedule any of our cleanings. We use HostBuddy AI, Price Labs, and a few other tools that probably round out to about $150 per month just on our tech stack. We also had cleaning involved with these operations. Each cleaning was about $100, including laundry and hot tub maintenance. And I can't remember the exact number, but we probably had between 10 and 12 turns for this property within that month, which you can do the math. Probably about $1,500 in cleaning expenses and deep cleans that we had to do when we started. We also have 13% hotel occupancy taxes that are inside of that revenue. 6% goes to our state, 7% goes to our local county. There's also some utilities involved. Tiny homes are pretty good on electricity. We'll probably spend about $100 a month on electricity here. We have Starlink internet, which is about $165 per month. We don't have any water bills because we have a water well. And we don't have any sewer bills because we have a septic system. But those also have their own maintenance and CapEx trucks involved with them too. So we're probably gonna add on about $500 for just maintenance and small things that need to be done here. We also had supplies, which was probably around $200 to get the initial place started up. Then I have a helper that comes out here and maintains some of the property and makes sure it looks good every single time for about 3 days a week for around $100 to $120. So that's about another $1,000, but he also works my whole property. So let's add $300 onto that to kind of equal out and what he may be doing with this one. I know those numbers off the top of my head because I've just been so involved in the system. I don't know exactly where they add up at, and I probably should have done that research before I got on video here. But if you add every single thing up, we probably were around $5,000 in expenses. This also doesn't include my monthly note on the tiny home because I financed it like an RV, which is $1,300 for 5 years. And then I also have a lot of back-end systems, virtual assistants, other thing like that work all of my other properties, which probably adds on maybe $300 to $400 per month for just this one extra property for work they have to do. So some quick math in my head, we're probably between $6,500 to $7,000 per month with this property in expenses in the first month. They're gonna go down as time goes on because we get our supplies set up, we get the operations better. My income for this first month from just this one property was about $3,000. But with the economies of scale, you can imagine me having about 20 of these types of properties, but it is a lot of work to make sure these run as efficient as you want to, and that you also are able to maintain them going forward to make sure your revenue stays up like it should. If I left anything out in this video that you really wanted to know, learn, or me to dive more into, please let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button so YouTube rewards the algorithm. I'll see y'all in the next one. Take care.